Deepen. All right, and we'll get started laying down on our backs this morning in Shavasana. And I know we are just getting up out of bed from this position. So if you need something a little bit more energizing and want to start seated, that works too. We will be doing some work on our back this morning after getting centered here, but just starting to come into this present moment together. Let's take a cleansing breath. So big, deep inhale, fill up the lungs. Open mouth, exhale, let it go. Let's do that one more time. Big, deep inhale, fill up the lungs. Open mouth, exhale, let it go. Maybe finding the eyes closed or just a soft, gentle gaze. Again, acknowledging that we just got up and out of bed, but trying to connect with the other senses of our body. And so maybe starting with a scan from the feet all the way up to the crown of the head. And just looking, noticing how the body feels in this moment right now. Looking for any points of tension that maybe you can release, and asking the body to soften or let go. Maybe melting a little bit deeper into the mat. And if that doesn't happen, that's okay. Just acknowledging where you are today in this moment. And then bringing your attention to the breath. So without making any changes, just noticing the natural inhales and exhales coming in and out of your chest. Maybe noticing the temperature of the breath. Maybe cool on the inhale and warm on the exhale. Does your breath have a sound? Maybe even a texture. Maybe it's soft or moist. Maybe it's a little dry and ragged this morning. And we're not going to change the breath today, but I want to invite you to use this breath during our practice this morning, to keep you connected with your body, to connect the mind to the body here, to keep us present. So I'll be cueing movement with the breath. And so using the length of the inhales and the exhales to guide those movements. And now I want to bring your attention to the space right behind the belly button. And just bringing attention to that part of the abdomen. And then notice on the inhale how the belly expands. And on the exhale, see if you can draw that belly button a little bit closer to the spine. So maybe even finding a slight constriction in the abdomen here. Starting to draw the belly button in a little bit closer. And maybe with each exhale, finding a stronger contraction, a stronger connection, drawing the navel into the spine. So imagine maybe like a string that's attached to the belly button and it's being pulled behind you, beneath you, on those contractions, on those exhales. And then on the next exhale, hold that contraction there. Keep the abdomen contracted and then resume your normal breathing, but keeping the abdomen tight, keeping the abdomen engaged. So maybe really controlling now, the breath is really only moving in the upper part of the body, upper part of the chest. Maybe pressing the low back into the mat to help deepen the connection there. And then let that all go. Resume your natural breathing. Resume any natural movement in the belly and the abdomen. And then on your next inhale, we're going to draw the knees into the chest. So make that a very slow and gentle movement, drawing knees into the chest here. And then rolling and maybe massaging out the low back. So just rocking from side to side. Letting this feel good in the low back. And then we're going to take legs to the sky, or legs up the wall. So inhale, reach the heels to the sky, flexing the feet, the toes are dripping down toward your nose. And you can keep a slight bend in the knee here. Hands are going to be down by your side, or if this feels like a lot of pressure in the low back and you want a little additional support, you can actually place your hands on the low back. And then reaching those feet up might feel like a nice little extra support. And then we're going to take some alternating leg lifts and lowers. So take an inhale and an exhale. And then on the inhale, the next inhale, allow the right heel to start to lower down toward the earth. Now, when your back starts to lift off of your hands or that support, that's your point where you stop. So you lower that right heel as far as you can go without lifting the low back. So really try pressing the low back into that point of contact, be it your hands or the earth. And then holding that right leg, hovering that right leg. Exhale, bring it back up to center. And then switch sides. Inhale, lowering that left heel as far as it will go. Breathing. Pressing the low back into the mat, maybe finding that connection again with the navel drawing into the spine. Inhale, come back to center, exhale, come back to center. And then we're going to alternate. So inhale, lowering the right heel, exhale, come back up. Inhale, lower the left heel, exhale, come back up. So using your own pattern, your own rhythm of breath, allowing the length of the inhales to lower the heel, and then the length of the exhale to bring the leg back up. And we'll do that for a few more rounds of breath, making sure again that you're pressing the low back into the mat or into your hands. Draw that navel into the spine. See if you can find even more core activation here. We do these little lifts and lowers. We'll say one more time on each side. And then after your last one, just pause. If you have your hands underneath your low back, you can take them out And then inhale, draw the knees into the chest, and roll out the back, roll out the low back. We're gonna do those one more time. And if you have a yoga block, we can use a yoga block. If you have like a towel or a blanket, we're going to use this to create balance and further strengthen the stability of our core muscles as well as our hip flexors here. So we're going to take our yoga block or our towel and we're going to place it and balance it on the left foot. So the left foot is going to be extended up to the sky, and then the right foot comes up to meet it. So the idea, so maybe your towel or your blanket is going to be folded in a way that you have to create balance. So obviously if it's draping over your foot, it's going to be a little bit easier to hold and to balance. So maybe creating something. And if you don't have a prop, that's okay. We can continue to do these lift and lowers without a prop. And then again, option, you can place the hands underneath the low back, or you can keep them long down by your side. And then on an inhale, allow the right heel to lower down onto the earth, toward the earth, hovering. We're going to hold this for just a couple rounds of breath. You guys got this. And then on your exhale, allow the right foot to come back up. And then we're going to do those lifts and lowers now just with that on the right side. So inhale, lowering the heel. Exhale, bringing it back up. Couple more rounds. Really stabilizing that block, stabilizing your prop. Say one more time. When the right foot meets the left, go ahead and switch out your prop, placing the prop on the right foot now. You can even use like a book or something else too. Again, it's just kind of creating this additional effort and stabilization in the leg, keeping that leg straight and immobile. And then hands come down by the side. Inhale, lower that left heel. Inhale, come back up. Inhale, lower the heel and hold. Forgot we were holding. So we'll hold here. Pressing the low back into the mat. See if you can find that core activation, pulling the navel into the spine. So really constricting those abdominal muscles. Inhale, come back up. And then do your lifts and lowers using the length of your inhale to lower and the length of the exhale to bring you back up. These look really good. We'll say one more time. One more lower, one more lift. Next time the left foot meets the right, grab your prop, set it aside, draw the knees into the chest. Maybe actually extend the legs long down the length of the mat. This will probably feel really good. Reach the arms up and overhead and give yourself a little good morning stretch here. Stretch out those abdominal muscles, the legs. And then we're going to roll over onto our side and just pausing. Allow the head to rest on the bicep on the inside of the left arm. Maybe drawing the knees in a little bit closer, coming into this fetal position. And then pausing, just noticing. We spent a lot of time on our back, so just noticing how the space on the back feels here. Maybe it feels like a nice relief. Maybe it feels, you can feel the nice cool air. And then we're going to push ourselves all the way up, meeting on all fours in our tabletop pose. So hands are about shoulder distance apart, and then shoulders are stacked over wrists. And we're pressing into all 10 fingers, the index finger pointing toward the top of the mat. And then knees are about hip distance apart and stacked below hips. Toes can be tucked or untucked. We're going to take a couple rounds of cat and cow, but first I really want you to, again, re-engage that navel to the spine. So drawing the belly button into the spine, activating those abdominal muscles, and see if you can keep them somewhat engaged here as we go through our rounds of cat and cow, and see how that might change or how that feels in these poses. So inhale, we'll drop the belly, tilt the sit bones, and pull the heart forward. And so you might feel as though you can't express this as deeply as you normally can, but just noticing how that feels maybe on the belly. And then still keeping the navel drawing into the spine. Exhale, round the upper part of the back, tuck the tailbone, allow the crown of the head to drip down toward the earth, chin tucks in toward the chest. Draw the navel into the spine, noticing here how that might feel, how it may feel different. And then exhale, cow pose. Inhale. I messed up the breath here, but that's okay. We'll do it this way today. Inhale, cat pose. Exhale, cow pose, since we're doing things that are different. So using your own breath, and you can go back to your normal inhale for cow and exhale for cat if you like, but just using the length of your breath to guide these movements. And we'll say a few more rounds on your own, following your breath. And then any other movements that might be calling to you. So we're just trying to wake up the spine here. We're trying to get some of these joints moving, maybe getting into the hips a little, maybe wiggling the hips from side to side, or doing these little hip circles, rolling over the shoulders maybe. Just kind of waking up the joints, waking up our muscles a little bit more. And then come back to your cow and your cats. We'll say 2 more rounds of each. And the next time you're in cat, we'll sink the hips all the way back, coming onto our heels, belly resting over thighs, coming into child's pose. Arms out in front of you, forehead drips down toward the earth. If you can't rest the forehead onto the earth, maybe stacking palms, fists. If you have that prop nearby, you can even rest your forehead on that prop. I'm just going to pause here for a couple rounds of breath. I like to use this as an opportunity to remind you that this pose is available to you at any time during your practice, this one or any future practice. This is a pose that you can come to for rest. This is a pose that you can use to steady the mind as the practice becomes more challenging, or if something comes up for you during practice, or even to just recenter and to reconnect with the breath. Okay, from child's pose, inhale, come back up, tabletop. We'll inhale, reach the right arm to the sky, opening up that chest. And then exhale, thread the needle. So right arm is going to come underneath left, coming down onto rest onto the left shoulder, and then resting onto the side of the face, right side of the face, maybe temple, forehead, cheek. I'm sorry, not forehead, but temple or cheek resting on the earth. And then checking in with the hips, noticing if the hips have kicked over to the left, see if you can draw them back in towards center. So this will really deepen and accentuate that stretch into the right side body. And then right hand can stay placed in front of the face. It can reach out in front of you to help assist, provide support, or maybe even deepen, push you deeper into the stretch. Or take that left hand and place it behind the low back, whatever feels good for you. And so even in this pose, see if you can draw that navel into the spine again. Noticing how it changes the sensation, or maybe it doesn't change anything, but maybe noticing if it does, the sensation, the control, where you feel this pose. And that's just a reminder too that our bodies are all different. And so we're all skeletally shaped differently, designed differently by our DNA, which means that all of our poses are going to look different. And I like to use this as a reminder that it's not about what the pose looks like, it's about what it feels like. So what do you feel in this pose? If you took an arm variation, moving the arm, taking the hand back in front of the face, and then pressing into the earth with the left hand, and take a counter stretch, reaching that right arm back up to the sky. It feels so good. And then plant the right hand down to meet the left, and we'll switch sides. Inhale, reach the left hand to the sky. Exhale, thread the left arm underneath the right, coming onto that left shoulder, resting onto the left side of the face. Checking in with those hips, see if you can draw them back in towards center if they've kicked out at all. And then taking the hand option that feels good on this side. Find that navel connection, drawing the belly button in, activating the core here. If you took an arm variation, taking that hand, planting it in front of the face, pressing into the right hand, and then inhale, reaching up, reaching that left hand to the sky for the counter stretch, and then plant the left hand down to meet the right. Coming back into our tabletop. We're coming into a low lunge from here. So taking the right foot and stepping it and placing it between your two hands at the top of the mat. And then maybe scooching the back knee back a little bit. So tucking the toes and just scooching the back knee just a little bit if you need to get a little bit deeper into that front hip flexor. That's this area in front of the left hip. I'm going to pause here for just a moment. Breathing, find the knee stacked over ankle. So if it's too far in, we might create too much compression in the knee. So trying to find this nice stacking of the knee over the ankle. If this feels like too much compression too, you can come up onto your fingertips. If you have that prop nearby, you can use the prop to lift you up. Maybe sink a little bit deeper into the hips, targeting that back left hip flexor, the front of the back left thigh. Breathe. And then keeping the left hand planted on the earth, take an inhale. We're going to reach the right arm up into the sky. So coming into this low twisted lunge. Again, finding that connection with the navel. So drawing the navel into the spine, and notice how that feels when coming into this twist. Maybe you can deepen this twist by pulling the navel into the spine, activating the core. And then avoid dumping into this left shoulder. We want to lift out of the shoulder. So imagine a nice bit of space in that armpit, underneath the armpit. Like if I had a tennis ball to tuck underneath that armpit, you're lifting out of that shoulder. You're creating space in that shoulder. Very nice. All right, so we're going to come into a twisted low lunge from here. So start to come up onto the fingertips of the left hand. And then on your inhale, we're going to rise up coming into this twist. So arms are extended, left hand is extended up toward the top of the mat and the right hand is extended toward the back of the mat. Sinking into those hips. And then really draw the navel into the spine again. See if that can help you deepen into this twist. Bring the left hand back down to the earth. Allow the right hand to come down on the outside of the right foot. And then we're going to take half splits from here. So sinking the hips back, allowing the right leg to straighten. And you might keep a slight bend in that right knee. And then walking the hands back. And then play with pointing and flexing the toes here. So noticing the difference and where you feel that sensation of having the point flexed or having it pointed. And then taking a variation that feels good for you today. Draw the navel into the spine. Again, noticing how that might change where you feel this pose. Staying connected with the core here. Start to rebend that right knee, planting the hands and framing the right foot, and then stepping that right knee back to meet the left and switching sides. So stepping the left foot up toward the top of the mat between the hands. Again, you can use your hand to assist your foot to get there. And then maybe tucking the right toes and then scooching that right knee back a little bit just to get a little bit deeper into that right hip flexor. And maybe you don't need to move it at all, but that's just an option. And then finding that stacking of the knee over the ankle, making sure that that knee is protected. Hi, Bruiser. And then if you need to lift up, if this creates too much tightness in the low back or compression, you can even come up on fingertips or using that prop to lift you back up out of the pose. Thank you for your help, buddy. Yes, thank you. And see if you can sink into the hips a little bit more, really targeting the front of the right hip, the right thigh. Very good boy. And then planting that right hand on the inside of the left foot. And then take an inhale, open the chest up to the left and reach the left hand to the sky, coming into this low twisted lunge. Breathing, draw the navel into the spine again. See if you can find the activation to pull you a little bit deeper into this pose. Start to get light on those right fingertips. We're going to rising up, low crescent, twist. Stay connected with the core here. Right arm is reaching up toward the top of the mat, and then the left hand is reaching toward the back of the mat. Really opening up, twisting as far over to the left as you can, drawing the navel into the spine to help you deepen this twist. Breathe. And then plant the right hand on the inside of the left foot now. And the left hand comes down to frame the outside of the left foot. And then on your exhale, allow the hips to sink back, coming into this half split. Again, keeping a slight or even a deep bend in the knee. So just going as far back as feels good in your body. And then option to point or flex the toes. I'm just experimenting with that. Bruiser says you guys are doing a really good job. They are, huh? Yeah. Start to bend into that left knee. Plant the hands to frame the left foot. Step the right knee back to meet the left. And then let's sink the hips back, coming into child's pose one more time. So allow the belly to fold over the thighs, forehead reaches down toward the earth. And then if you'd like to, you can take your arms and allow them to come down along your side. So shoulders are heavy, maybe the hands clasp the back of the heels. I'm going to check time because this class. Yep. Oh, perfect, 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 perfect. Okay. And when you guys are ready, we have one last little flow to do, and then our cool down. So if your arms came down by your side, go ahead and reach them back out in front of you. Press into the palms, inhale, shift up and forward, coming into tabletop pose. Step the right foot between the hands toward the top of the mat. Press the left hand into the earth. Inhale, reach the right arm to the sky. Low twisted lunge. And then inhale, rise up, coming into our twist. And then we're going to do a little flow here. So I like to keep that back toe, the left toes tucked. It really helps me with balance. So we'll take an inhale and then exhale. We're going to shift the hips back, straightening that right leg. Toes are going to be coming toward the nose, so foot is flexed. And then with the left hand, you're going to reach forward, touching either the sole of the foot or the toes, or reaching toward it. They don't actually have to touch, but your effort is toward it. And then inhale, come back up, sink back into that right knee. And then make sure that you're staying connected with the spine here, or with the abdomen here, the core. So drawing the navel into the spine, exhale, coming into this half split, reaching the left fingers to the toes or the bottom of the foot. Inhale, come back up, exhale, we reach. We'll do that a few more times here. Inhale, come back up, exhale, finger to toes. We'll say one more round. Next time you're back up, we'll pause for a breath. On your next exhale, plant the left hand down to the earth. Right hand comes onto the outside of the right foot. Then step that right knee back to meet the left. And then switching sides, left foot comes up to the top of the mat between the hands. Press the right hand into the mat. Inhale, open up, left arm to the sky. And then on the next inhale, rising all the way up, coming into our twist. Draw the navel into the spine. And then exhale, start to straighten that left leg, flexing the toes and allowing the right hand to come down and touch the bottom of the foot or the toes. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, half split, fingers to toes. Draw the navel into the spine. Keep the core strong and active here. This side is much more wobbly for me. All right, we'll say one more time. And when you get back to your twist, pause. On your next exhale, plant the right hand on the inside of the left foot. The left hand comes on the outside to frame the foot. Step the right knee back to meet the left. Sink the hips back, child's pose. Let's take a cleansing breath together. Big, deep inhale, fill up the lungs. Open mouth, exhale, let it go. So coming onto our backs for our cool down. So finding a way to get there, maybe shifting up into tabletop and then resting into a seat, kicking the legs out in front of you, and then just rolling down onto the back. And then making sure that you have your prop nearby. So maybe that's your block or your blanket or your towel. We're going to use this for supported bridge pose. So bend the knees, plant the feet about a foot or two in front of the glutes, and then taking your prop, so whether it's that folded blanket or your yoga block, you'll take an inhale, and then exhale, reach the hips to the sky, and then slide the block underneath your low back. And you want to avoid any type of pinching. So if it's too far up into the lumbar spine, it's going to feel uncomfortable on the spine and the vertebrae there. So just pushing the block down a little bit further will help with that. And then arms come down to the side. Allow the palms to face up toward the sky. Let's make this a really nice passive resting pose here. Maybe on those exhales, draw the navel into the spine, and on the exhales, on the inhales, releasing it. So still staying connected a little bit to the core, to the abdomen. Bruiser. Always making me work harder. If you're doing that controlled breath, pressing the navel into the spine on the exhales, let that go and just come back to your natural breathing. And on your next exhale, lift the hips up, move your prop out. Very slowly, one vertebrae at a time, allow the back to roll down, tailbone coming down last. Oh, it feels so good. And let's draw the knees into the chest, rolling out the low back a little, rocking the knees from side to side. And then keeping the knees into the chest, extend the arms out to the side like a T, and take an on your exhale, allow the knees to fall over to the left, coming into this twist into the right side body. And then modifying or changing the degree and the bend of the knees and where the knees are placed, so you can make sure that that right shoulder stays planted down onto the earth. So that might even mean like staggering the legs, maybe even straightening a little bit. Finding a stretch in the right side body into the hip here. So maybe imagining the inhales traveling down the length of, down the armpit, down the length of the right side, and into that right hip, right low back. Your next inhale, draw the knees back to center, and then exhale, fall over to the right. Again, making any adjustments that you might need. Not worrying what this looks like, but rather what this feels like. Inhale, draw the knees back to center. We're going to take one final pose before our final resting pose. We're going to take Banana Asana. Legs come down the length of the mat, reach the arms up and overhead, and then walk the feet over to the left of the mat, and then walk the arms over to the left. So really keeping the hips anchored into the earth. So we're not lifting up that right leg, that right hip, it stays anchored down into the earth. So that might mean walking the feet a little bit further back to center if the hip is rising up. And then left hand can hold onto the left wrist or left elbow. And then maybe experiment with crossing the left ankle over the right to create additional traction into the left side body, in this left side body stretch. And maybe this time, imagining on your inhales, drawing the breath in through the sole of the right foot, traveling up the outside of the right leg, the right hip, the right side body, into the armpit, the right arm, and coming out the right hand. You took a crossing of the feet. Go ahead and uncross that left foot, walk the feet back to center, let go of your arms and walk them back to center, and then switching sides. Walking the right feet over to the right, walking the feet over to the right side. And then your arms come over to the right, staying anchored in both sides of the hips. Back of the hips are planted, rooted into the earth. Taking the right hand around the left wrist or maybe elbow, and then crossing right ankle over left. Again, maybe imagining the breath coming in through the heel of the left foot, traveling the outside of the left leg, the left hip, the left side body, into the armpit, the arm, and out the left fingertips. And cross the ankles, walk the feet back to center. Let go of any arm clasp, allow the arms to come back to center, and then set up for your final resting pose. I'll give you a few minutes here in your Shavasana. So feet can come down the length of the mat. Maybe feet are the width of the mat and feet kind of splay out to the side. Arms can stay up and overhead if that feels good here, or maybe bringing the arms down by the side. Allow the back of the hands to rest on the earth so the palms are facing up to the sky, and then nestling the shoulder blades together. So kind of creating this support for the shoulders to open up. Tuck the chin into the chest. Rest your eyes and enjoy these next few minutes of Shavasana.